Hi all, this is Rehole Bitata from STEAM Power. We are here to open doors to diversity in STEM. We are here to change narratives around STEM, and we are also here to celebrate Women's International Month, which is the month of March. And today we have a very special guest. All our guests are very special. She is someone that wanted to become a doctor and went to actually became an accountant. So she was from one science to another type of science, which is a science that we all need to be involved in, unfortunately, finance, accountancy. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you, Joyce Materego. Welcome, Joyce.
Much, Riole. Your name again. I need to pronounce it properly.
No worries.
Riole.
Rihole.
Rihole.
Mm.
Okay, beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Really, I'm so pleased to be here, and I feel privileged actually to be part of your journey, part of your work, and happy to share what little I can share with your audience.
It's not little, it's loads. It's loads. Yeah. So let's begin. Can you tell us a little bit about you?
Okay, so as Rihole said, I'm a finance professional. I'm a finance director at the moment. I work and live in London. I have worked across all sectors. So book publishing industry, media, and then into charity sector, which I joined in 2009 after the birth of my son, my second child, when I decided I really, really need to pass on the values I want onto my children, as opposed to working full time, earning a good salary and passing it on to a childminder or a nanny. So I went to work in a sector that values that kind of thing, and the charity sector was the one for me. So I went into that in 2009 and I've never left. And I find that I've grown in leaps and bounds in how I understand finance, humanity, and how, how important how you view finances and money and how it shapes your life. I was born in Tanzania. I came into England, London, when I was about 23. And that was a long time ago, about 27 years ago. So, I've been here a long time. But I went to England via India, where I was there for 2 years trying to become a doctor. I was basically a scientist, a mathematician, and I really wanted to go into being a doctor and then going back to Tanzania to help people, cure people, or even get into public health. When I was in India, I was told you cannot do medicine, you can do a degree in biology, which is botany and zoology and chemistry. I realized I was doing everything that I had already done back home because of the differences in education system. In that Indian's education system is more based on the American model, and Tanzanian system is based on the British system, having been their colony. So I moved to England. We had friends here, so I came and I started working and studying, and then I studied computer science. And then I sort of fell into accounting by mistake. You temp. I was doing waitressing and then working in an office, and I'm just comfortable with numbers, always have been comfortable with numbers. Mm-hmm. And so as I was doing that, I realized actually you can do accounting using computers as opposed to a briefcase with a calculator, really boring. And another thing that was really off-putting for me for accounting is that when I was growing up, I just thought about this before meeting you, that there were a lot of people who were doing accounting, they'll rise and become finance directors, and then suddenly they've lost their jobs because some misappropriation happened in the organization and they've been laid off, or they become disgraced and in the scandal in the papers. So for me, I was thinking most accountants are kind of unscrupulous people. I don't really want to be involved in that side. But doctors are always very looked at with respect, and they're people who help people. It's prestigious. My parents always said, well, it's a good idea that you go into medicine. And the education system I grew up in Tanzania was that if you're the top third of the class, you're pushed into science. And because I was there, I was doing well in school, then I went into sciences. However,
Would you say that something inspired you though? Do you think that something inspired you to go there, or was it just because of your grades?
I liked the fact that all the doctors I knew who were family friends were very well respected. And I thought to myself, I wanted to understand my body as a girl, as a woman. So when I was young, I was very athletic. I was doing athletics. I was running 200 meters, 800 meters, and my body, the way it was changing, it was a source of questions. And then I became curious about my own body. When I became a teenager and I started going through the menstrual cycles, I suffered a lot of pain. So that spurred me on into thinking, I need to really understand the reproductive system and why these things happen. Why am I in pain? Why is my sister not in pain? So my idea was to become a doctor and then specialize in gynecology. You see, so it's all about just being curious and looking at yourself and thinking, I'm getting all this knowledge. How can I align something I know of myself and of the world, and then make it into something that's a purposeful thing to do in the world?
All right.
That's sort of there.
Thank you. So for as a woman in Tanzania or women in Tanzania, do you think that the attitudes in the community towards women that want to start a career or study something to do with STEM are well received? Is there a positive attitude in the community?
What a fantastic question. Varied. I think I was very, very lucky. I had parents who were very much pushing me to be the best I can be. However, there were other people who are not part of the family who would say, you should study, but not too much because you'll put off some guys. You may not be a good sort of wife material. Sorry?
Wife material.
Sorry? I won't be good wife material because, you know, if you're doing everything, what's the man coming to do? But my mom and dad were like, especially my mom was saying like, no, you should do everything you can and then find someone who is bigger than you, better educated, better standing in community, things like that. You know, so there was no limits. I didn't feel like I was limited at all. And my dad always said things like, you can do anything you want.
Would you say that is true for all women for most women in Tanzania or in your family? Is that the same story for other women in your family?
In my family, yeah, they were all encouraged to do all different things, you know. So like my aunties, especially on my dad's side, they're very entrepreneurial. They always had their own businesses, partly because my grandfather was a merchant. So it's something they grew up seeing. And yeah, they were very encouraged, but it wasn't true for everybody I saw around me growing up. You know, a lot of girls they were trained to grow up and wait for their knight in shining armor. Someone will come and marry them, and then that's where life will be good. Yeah, so it was like that. But in my family, I felt very, very encouraged. The one thing that my parents were not very encouraging of was the arts. That, you know, you can be a spectator, you can be someone who goes and sees for entertainment, but we don't want you to go into that area of work because it wasn't well paid. So, you know, again, I'll talk about this later in terms of how people attach in Africa, especially how parents in the society attaches good life, i.e. the ability, the amount of cash you get to certain professions and not others. Creativity was always seen as something that you can do as a hobby, or others can do, but not you if you're aspirational. If you're aspirational, you have your list. You can be a doctor. So my parents were saying, I can be a doctor. You can be an engineer. You can be a lawyer, you know, things like that. Or, you know, but never, for example, you can grow up to be a dancer.
You know,
my brother was...
It's interesting that you say that, because the person that I interviewed before, she's also an African, you know, African born from Zambia, and she's got a daughter who is an artist. But her being a psychologist, she's looking at her daughter, she's looking at her ability, great ability, but she also sees that that's not where the money is. So she's actually doing what you're saying as we speak. She wants her daughter. She's not deterring her daughter from going to art, but she's saying, look, let's have this option as well, apart besides the arts.
It's really something I would say to all parents, just to be curious of your children and see what they're good at. And long gone are the days where there's only a few professions where you can make a good living. I think right now, and it's always been the case, but I think now the world is changing more and more, and it's becoming more and more apparent. Everything is connected.
Yeah.
If, for example, to do things like psychology, there's so much psychology in marketing. If you can see the connection between things, you are able then to support your children in a way that can be really, really useful for them later in life.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that schools, because you have children that were born in this country, do you think that schools are preparing your children and children in general to go for actually, let me say this again. Do you think, actually, what is happening in UK schools so far as STEM education, if you can tell us anything that you have seen through in your children?
I've seen a push for girls to be more involved in STEM education. It's not just a boys thing now. However, I'm a firm believer of education starting from home. So if parents have given an implicit permission to their children to be anything they can be, they will look at STEM studies as something that they're able to do. If you don't have that reinforced belief from home or from when you're growing up, it has to take something within you to take you there. Like the boy we were talking about, Kelvin, who did a TED Talk. But I think nurture is so powerful. Nature is there and it can be powerful, but nurture is so powerful that whatever you say as a parent it goes into your child and it stays there. I'm still quoting my mother now. I'm 50 now. I'm quoting my mother, and so if you say something positive, it will stay with them. If you say something negative, for example, things like maths and stuff like that, they're not really for you, or this is not something a nice girl would do. Well, they won't do it, because they'll be thinking of this, there'll be this little voice in their head thinking, well, this won't receive a positive reaction from my parents, for example. Yeah. So I think the schools are actually giving children a chance to do anything they want. I'll give you an example. My daughter, she's 18 now, and she's going to university, and she's doing visual effects for films and animation. Mm-hmm. When she was growing up, I was I started working part-time. I went to work in the charity sector, and I worked part-time because I wanted to be with my children and watch them grow. And I watched her painting. She loved painting always and sketching. She loved music. I was able to get lessons for her. So she did piano only to grade 3, and then she decided she doesn't want to do piano anymore, but she continued to draw and sketch and paint. I also noticed that she was very good with maths. And it's something that I encouraged at home. Even though she always said, oh, Mom, I'm good, but not that good. I'm not like you. I still encouraged her. And luckily, when she went to secondary school, she went to a free school where the curriculum was following the national curriculum, but slightly different. And the teacher there didn't teach them just numbers like times tables or, calculus or algebra. He started with the history of maths. So he went through Roman maths, Babylonian maths, Egyptian numerals, all that. And so my daughter, who was very interested in storytelling and history, was just sucked into this world of numbers. By the time they started doing the numbers, she was already converted and she loved maths. You see, so the way you teach is important, and teachers have a very crucial role to play.
That's really interesting. That's really interesting.
It's very interesting because she completely changed and became a fantastic mathematician. And then in addition, she fell in love with coding. So computer science was taught at her school. She was doing coding, creating small programs, etc., etc. So for me, I was thinking she has to do as many GCSEs as possible. So she did 9, but I saw she was very good with math. She was very good with coding, computer science, which she didn't have to try hard at. And with art, it was like, if she doesn't want to study, she wants to rest, she does art. So I was thinking to myself, I have to find something that will bring all these things together and she can use this for life. When she went to A level, she went to a school, a comprehensive school, Woolwich College. She wanted to go there. I went to the school, and this is where I say education starts from home and parents have a big role to play. I went to the school. I was asked to speak to the head of sixth form. I said, my daughter wants to come to this school. She loves the school. However, I want her to do these 3 subjects, maths, art, and computer science. And she said, oh, it depends. We may not be able to put her with the other people because it depends on how many young people we get and how we can sort of group them together. Why doesn't she do history? I said, no, because we agreed that she's going to come here and she can do these subjects. Anyway, long story short, they put her, when she was doing in year 12, she was doing computer science and maths with year 12s, but she was doing art with year 13s. And then when she got to, because of the timetable, and then when she got to year 13, she was doing computer science and maths with year 13s, and then she was doing art with year 12s. But they assessed her, they saw that she was independent, she was able to work on her own. Her work was quite advanced at the time because she's forever doing art at home. I never had to remind her to do that. And then she finished, and now she's going to university doing visual effects, and she's creating content already, animations, short movies within her group at university, which they're all remote, but they're doing it on Zoom. And I'm just like, so I'm very pleased because for me, I can say from experience, not theoretically, I can say the triangle between a child, the schooling system, and the parent is crucial.
Thank you for that. That's a really interesting, very, very, very insightful account because some parents actually in the community don't have that relationship with schools, not because of fault of their own. Sometimes is the dynamics within that management of the school and also how the school interacts with the community that they are in. It seems to me that that school had a really open-minded approach to parent engagement and didn't see as something to get defensive about, because some schools are like that. They get defensive and then they see you as problematic.
As a trouble parent.
And then that they don't want to accommodate your child, and there is a constant battle. So I think it's great that your daughter got what she wanted and also you fought for your daughter as well. And that's because sometimes we feel that going hard is the way forward, and sometimes going soft is another approach as well.
Yeah. For me, actually, it wasn't, it sounds like a fought, but I built a relationship. I say always this to any young person who comes into contact with me: how you take yourself out into the world is how you'll be received. If you're going to be in a school and they're saying, oh, we have this community, something, I don't know, they have a fete, for example, they want to have community activities to fundraise or something, be involved. If they never see you, if you're not there to, if you're a child and you're never there on time, for example, for your lessons, if as a parent, you're not offering your time to the school and being part of the community, when you come to talking about your child and what they need, it may be the ethos of the school that they don't want anyone to talk to them. But I find that if you've built a relationship, you're more likely to be received well.
Do you think that schools are preparing children to meet the demands of the world? When you look at the wider community, especially within the Black community, do you think that most of the young people coming out of secondary school, even university, are well prepared to meet those demands?
I have to say we've got a way to go in terms of how the schools understand young people. Experience has been different. So I have a girl and I have a boy. I find that with girls, they're seen slightly different from boys. My boy, being a Black boy, you know, he's mixed race, but he's Black. They look at them slightly different. Seems to me like there is always willingness to see a young Black boy as a potential troublemaker. So as a mother, as a parent, I found myself being extra vigilant as opposed to how it was with my daughter in primary school, especially. So with that, I made a conscious decision to make sure that my son goes to a school that is receptive to Black boys, and where he's going, you hit just nail on the head there when you said it sounds like that school is very much about the community. The school he goes to is very much about, you know, the community. The boys who go there, they see role models in their teachers. A high percentage of the teachers are Black, and they are people who.
Which borough is this?
Greenwich.
Greenwich.
They're highly qualified people. They're PhDs, but they've given their purpose in life is to raise young people from their own background. So they're African teachers who have got PhD in maths, PhD in physics, and they've gone back to give to this place, and it's bearing fruits. So they're working in very good partnership between white teachers and Black teachers together, but the Black teachers seem to understand. They have that another layer of understanding of Black students, and which helps the white teachers as well to do the same, and they're thriving. It's a fantastic school.
So that looks like fantastic teamwork there in that school.
It is, yeah, it's fantastic teamwork. But to answer your question with regards to being prepared for the world, there is something for me that's missing across the spectrum, which is financial literacy. I don't think schools are preparing children to become good financial stewards. Because I believe if you have finances and you look after your finances properly, then you're fine. You can even pursue your purpose. But if that's not possible, then you're not able to be stable as a human being and contribute in the world. Then you're more likely to choose something that's not speaking to your talents, and you're going to do a job that you don't like so that you can earn the money. And you may not do it very well because it's not speaking to your inner being, you know, what you're brought into the world to do. Another thing is that the education system is training young people to come out of the schooling system as employees. And I believe there is room there to train them to become entrepreneurs.
That's right.
And project-based work is very important. And even when someone comes out of the schooling system and they're an employee, you're still in business for yourself as an employee. It's a different way of looking at things. So when you're working for someone, you shouldn't see it as, oh my God, it's just a job. I have to see it as an opportunity. Every day you're working for someone else, you're actually earning your future cash. It's something that you can take to do something for yourself later. There is no such thing as a job for life anymore. So any skill you're gaining can be something that can be utilized at a later part in your life, or you do one job and you do something separately. You know, there's a lot happening now that you can do online, or you know, on other social media platforms, or even within your community.
Thank you very much for that. Now, a different topic, it's important. I believe that personal development is something that I found out about very late in my life. Put it that way.
Wow.
And I think it's something that is not introduced to young people, to children in primary school. Well, now we have subjects like PSHE, and it was within that subject in particular where you can explore a little bit of personal development, like character building and understanding more about relationships with others and the relationship within you. So what are you currently reading? And what would you recommend children to read or parents to read at this present moment?
So the book I'm reading at the moment, or I'm reading with my teenagers, is this one. It's called, I don't know if I can read it, The Defining Decade 20. So your 20s as a defining decade. I think the 20s are very, very important because That's the time when you're leaving your full-time education, you're getting a job, or maybe you're on your second job. It's around that time when you find your life partner, whichever way you want. Is again, financially, it's a crucial time because that's the time you can start investing. Because if you invest, the sweet spot is around 20 years. If you're investing in the market, for example, it takes about 20 years for you to see the big effect of compound interest. So I think the 20s are very important, and I'm just doing this as part of my raising the children. I find myself like I'm learning as I'm going along, being a parent. When they were under 10, there were other things that we were reading to do with them being people. For example, I had a children's version of this 7 habits of highly effective children. There is one for children. Yes, there's one for children. There is one which is 7 habits of highly effective teens, which I had as well for the children as soon as they hit 12, because I think the teenage years start a little bit earlier. We read that. So I'll recommend those for parents. There is one for grown-ups, but these are the 2 for young people. And it's about things like how you take yourself out into the world, seek to understand first before being understood, start with the end in mind. So when you wake up in the morning and you're going to school, for example, what do you want to achieve in the day? Having conversation with the children, because I think they may be young, they have a lot of knowledge. What they're lacking is wisdom, which comes through with experience. And that's where, as a parent, you come in. But I don't believe in the model which I sort of grew up with, even though my parents were a bit more progressive, where children are seen, not heard.
If you are just talking at them, there's no dialogue, and your children cannot, to a degree, trust you.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Joyce. I know that you have a podcast. You want to tell us something about your podcast?
Okay, so the podcast, I'm actually launching it this month. So it's been online. We're now in March, yes. So it's been online since February, end of February. The podcast is called Mind on Your Money. And the reason I'm talking about Mind on Your Money is because I'm thinking of the mindset around money and how we see finances. I believe that cash is only one form of money. There is a lot of other forms, which I've grouped them into 6 layers. And one of them is data or information or knowledge of self, of your environment. So, for example, when I talk about that as being a form of money, I would say to my son in the morning, it's time to get up. Are you ready to get your money? So I don't call it education, I call it money. Because if you're getting the education and you have knowledge of self, then you will find out something that's speaking to you that you can do for a living. Another form of money, I think a big form is relationships. Who you know will open opportunities for you, will open doors for you, but also relationship within you. Who do you think you are, and whether you're able to go out there and get opportunities. I saw one of the clips about you, Rihola, when you were talking to young people and you had a picture of doors on the screen and said, what do they represent? And it was interesting that maybe it was 1 or 2 people in the group, 2 young people, who said it was anything to do with opportunities. And I think opportunities come through people, but also through yourself. If you see something that's there, it's a door, everything is an opportunity. So another one, which is intellectual property. I think property as a whole, so intellectual property and property as in land and premises, and then acumen. So, in the 2000s, we started hearing, we are looking for someone to run our business. They have to have business acumen. Or we're looking for an accountant, they have to bring business acumen. Acumen comes from the word acuity, and this can be also seen as shrewdness or savvy or even wisdom. King Solomon was asked by God, would you like riches or wisdom? And he chose wisdom, because if you have wisdom, the cash will follow. It's inevitable. Because you will make the right decisions at the right time. So that's what I'm going to be talking about in my podcast. I'll go through the different forms of money and try to elevate humanity in my own small way.
What day is
Um,
this on? What this is your podcast on?
it's going to be every Monday.
Every
I
Monday.
try and put it every Monday because I believe Monday is the beginning of the week. And if people listen to it, it sets them up for the rest of the week. And my battle cry will be mind on. So, I want you to switch your mind so you have your mind on the money, not the other way around. Even the phrase itself is a bit disturbing. Money on my mind. It's like
But
it's
that's when
if
we were talking about it earlier, and it's to do with the rap culture and hip hop culture. I remember, I think it was Warren G or Snoop Doggy Dogg that actually say those things, and that's a very famous line that you find in the hip hop culture, at least in the 90s. Not sure what they're talking about it now, but definitely in the
sure.
90s.
Yeah,
So
sure.
so thank you, Joyce. It was I think this has been brilliant, and I hope
Fantastic.
that parents and young people listening to this take action, because we are very good at nodding, but then when it comes to action, we sometimes fall short. So it's been a pleasure having you, Joyce, and take action. This is Rihola Bitata from Steam Power. Thank you all.